Let's talk about money for a second. It's one of those topics that can bring up a ton of emotions, right? Anxiety, stress, maybe even a little shame. But what if we could actually change our relationship with it? Well, today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're diving deep into the cycle of financial stress and, most importantly, how we can break it. Okay, let's just start with this number right here. It's pretty striking. A survey from Equitable found that a whopping 80% of Americans are worried about just affording everyday life. And the craziest part, this isn't just a low income issue. That feeling, it cuts right across all income levels. It doesn't matter how much you make, the anxiety is there. So, look, if you've ever felt that pressure, that knot in your stomach, I really want you to hear this. You are so far from being alone. This is not some personal failure. You're not doing something wrong. The numbers are crystal clear. This is a shared reality for millions of people right now. Okay, so before we can even begin to talk about solutions or fixes, we've got to do something that's absolutely crucial. We have to just acknowledge how big this problem really is. We have to validate the anxiety that, let's be honest, so many of us are feeling. And this anxiety isn't just some passing worry. It has real long-term consequences. I mean, get this. A 2024 analysis from the National Council on Aging found that a jaw-dropping 47 million older U.S. households are either financially struggling right now or are on the brink. Think about that for a second. That just shows you how deep this issue really runs. So all of this widespread stress, it creates this really complex thing. It's a powerful and honestly often vicious cycle. It's a feedback loop that directly connects the money in our bank accounts to the thoughts in our heads. So let's get on the same page and be super clear about what we mean by financial stress. At its core, it's that condition, that feeling of being totally overwhelmed because the money coming in just doesn't feel like enough to cover everything going out. At least not with this constant worry and strain hanging over your head. And this isn't just some abstract feeling. It has a tangible, real-world impact. I mean, just look at this chart. Research from the TIAA Institute is pretty clear. Financially stressed employees miss about twice as many days of work each year as their colleagues who aren't stressed. Twice as many. So yeah, this has some serious real-world consequences. Okay, and this is where that vicious cycle I mentioned really kicks in. The TIA report points out something fascinating. Poor mental health actually makes it harder to think clearly about money. There's this psychological thing called a scarcity mindset. Basically, when your brain feels like you don't have enough, it kind of panics. Your focus narrows, and you're way more likely to make impulsive, short-term choices, which, you guessed it, just creates even more financial stress. It's a cycle that just keeps feeding on itself. And, the stakes here are incredibly high. We're not just talking about numbers on a spreadsheet or in a bank account. We're talking about our health. Ongoing chronic financial stress is directly linked to some really serious stuff: anxiety, depression, and even a higher risk of developing chronic diseases. Okay, so we've laid out the problem, right? It's big, it's real, and it's stressful. So, how do we start to fight back? Well, let's get into it. We'll start with part one. The practical, concrete tools you can use to start getting a handle on things and regaining that sense of control. You know, a really fantastic place to begin is with a super simple framework. You may have heard of it, the 50-30-20 rule. The idea is simple. You take your after-tax income, and 50% of it goes to your needs, like rent and groceries. 30% goes to your wants, the fun stuff, and a really crucial 20% goes towards savings and paying down debt. It's just a clear, simple guide to get you started. All right, next up. This might be one of the single most powerful weapons against financial anxiety: building your financial cushion, your emergency fund. And this is about so much more than just saving money. It's about buying yourself peace of mind. Seriously, think of it like a shock absorber for your life. When that unexpected car repair or medical bill pops up, you have something to fall back on. So the big question is, how big does that cushion need to be? Well, the general rule of thumb is to have enough to cover 3 to 6 months of your essential living expenses. And I get it, that can sound like a mountain to climb. But honestly, every single dollar you set aside is a step away from that constant fear. Having that safety net, it's a total game changer. Now, what about tackling debt? Well, there's no single right answer here. The best strategy for you really depends on your personality. Are you all about the numbers? Then focusing on the high interest debt first will save you the most money. Or do you need those quick wins to stay motivated?
then the snowball method, where you knock out the smallest debts first, might be perfect for you. It's all about what keeps you going.
Okay, so we've talked about the practical stuff, the how-to, but that's only half the battle. Now we need to dive into the second, and I'd argue equally important piece of this whole puzzle, our mindset. It's all about shifting our emotional relationship with money. And that brings us to this really cool concept called financial mindfulness. So what is it? It's basically being super aware of where you stand financially, the good, the bad, all of it. And then, and this is the key part, accepting that reality without beating yourself up over it. It's about looking at the facts without all the negative self-talk. So how is this different from just a regular old budget? Well, think of it like this. Traditional budgeting is all about the what, the numbers, the rules, the restrictions. Financial mindfulness is all about the why. Why did you make that purchase? What were you feeling? It helps you dig into the emotions behind your spending so you can understand your habits on a much, much deeper level. And the best part is you can start practicing this, like today. It can be super simple things. Try having a weekly money date with yourself just to check in. Or before you click buy now, just take a 10-second pause and ask yourself, do I really need this? It's about making sure your spending actually lines up with what you truly care about. You know, certified financial therapist Maureen Kelly really nails it with this quote. She says that at the end of the day, true fulfillment isn't just about having a big pile of money. It's about finding that sweet spot, that balance between financial security and your own emotional well-being. All right, so where does this all leave us? Let's take these two big ideas, the practical tools and the mindful mindset, and bring them together, because that's where we find the real path to financial wellness. If there's one thing to take away from all this, it's this. You absolutely need both. The practical tools give you control, right? But the emotional awareness, that's what gives you peace. Real, lasting financial well-being happens right at the intersection of those two things. And maybe, just maybe, the most powerful shift you can make is this one right here. Stop seeing money as a scorecard for your life. Your net worth is not your self-worth. It is not a measure of who you are as a person. It's just a tool. That's it. And just like any tool, what really matters is what you decide to do with it. So I'm going to leave you with this final question to think about. If money is just a tool and not a measure of your worth, what are you going to build with it? What kind of life do you want to create for yourself? Because that answer, that's the real foundation of financial wellness.